Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon from where you're watching from. This is the Casual Word and Casual Word Radio, where we continue our endeavor to change the world one word at a time. I'm your host, Langley, and I'm happy to have back and for us to get back on schedule, my man, Rayan. Man, thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me back. It's a
Uh,
pleasure to be here, man.
Yes, sir. For those of you all who have been following this series in particular, he and I have been delving into some of the intricacies of his country. He lives in Lebanon, which is over in the Mediterranean, Middle Eastern area of the world. So for those of you keep up with current affairs, of course, there's a lot going on in his country, insurrection. There's been change in the guard, if you will, a lot of fallout from civil unrest, violence, and economic collapse, for lack of a better way to put that. And so we've been diving into some of those different aspects and how it affects the arts community and how it affects him as a person. And the goal of this is to give you guys a firsthand account of some of the things that are going on in another country, but also to encourage us to learn more about one another in a more personal sense, rather, so that we can see how arts transcends culture and it transcends race and ethnicity. So today we are going to talk about the pandemic. You know, with the Omicron variant coming out, a lot of Africa is kind of shutting down, a lot of Europe shutting down. The last time we were on, Rayon, we talked about specifically the state of your economy. And we talked about the devaluation of your currency along with inflation and just exorbitant pricing. So I think it comes as no surprise that the pandemic, COVID-19, you know, you had the original, and then you had the Delta, and now we've got the Omicron variant rolling out. How has this changed your all's way of life overall since, you know, this started almost 2 years ago?
So I guess I believe, just like everyone else, we learn we learn what it really means to just be restricted and just closed down from the world. Uh, just like all of us, we all had the lockdowns. We all had the restrictions on the streets, the curfews, all of that. So definitely, I guess, just as before addressing myself as a Lebanese citizen, just as a human, it was definitely hard to adapt to just the lockdowns, and then it's definitely something that is it's not it's something you could see in the movies usually,
Mhm.
and it's being applied over here in real life and everywhere else. So it's very tough to handle and to adapt. Uh, and as Lebanese, of course, with our already existent issues, as you have mentioned, it's even harder because a lot of people view this over here as like, it's the least of our problems. Sometimes because we already have everything else, on top. And so it definitely changed a lot of things for us, and it increased the impact of of how our economy is being affected, because there's no market moving, everything's closed, there's no purchase and selling, and so it's made it even worse, for us, unfortunately. And so and then, of course, before even delving into those details, there's just psychologically, it took a toll on a lot of us. And so a lot of us, it's hard to understand that this is even happening.
Mhm. And you know, that's a good point you make about the psychological impacts, is because we're just now seeing articles, we're just now seeing interviews, you know, nationwide media coverage about the effects psychologically of being closed in like that. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to ask to that point, with the curfew restrictions and some of the things that you all had implemented as a government, were those hard enforced in terms of law enforcement, even possibly military presence, or was it kind of a suggestion? And how did that And you talk about it being the least of your worries. So was it taken as serious because you had so many other issues going on that seemed more prevalent? Or was it kind of, was it one more thing to stack on that you had to really take seriously?
I guess it was a little bit of both because I mean, we really did have to try to handle it. I mean, it's not something small. It is a big issue, and definitely, I guess for the country and for the citizens and for the government or what's left of the government, it was very hard to juggle, and it is continues to be hard to juggle. I mean, there were some times where I guess you could see the numbers dropping down, but then again they continue to fluctuate, and so the numbers of cases I'm saying, and yeah, like you would see some of that law presence on the street at times. Sometimes it wouldn't seem as, oh, it's taken so seriously. Sometimes it's just there for show, like there's this being taken care of, but it's not really being taken care of. So it's like some days like this, some days like that, and you don't really know, but definitely I can say confidently that there was an effort to try and take care of it. It's not like it's completely dropped down, but right now it's definitely it's not something that people are really thinking about so much. It's just being mentioned because it's trendy, not mentioned in a way that, oh, it's like on top of our priorities. So yeah.
And you mentioned the psychological impact. So let's go ahead and transition into the arts community. Yeah, I know that when we talked in our first installment, and even the last time we were together, we talk about how so much of art, especially in the written and spoken word arena, is a reflection of what current events are, right? What's happening in someone's heart, what's happening, and how that makes them feel. And I'm sure it goes without saying that the pandemic was probably being talked about amongst those artists and being written about and spoken on. And I know that you had mentioned before there was this trend toward negativity and pessimism in everyone's art. Did you see the pandemic exacerbate that level of pessimism in the art? I mean, did it get to a point where it was very kind of dark and morose most of the time when you guys got together, or was it used as a point of levity? I mean, how did you all handle that? Because I know it's part of our expression and a part of a way to cope psychologically, but at the same time, you don't want to go somewhere where everyone's talking negatively and the entire atmosphere is negative. So were you guys able to break that up, or was it really just all, heavy and weighing on everybody's psyche?
So I guess in the very beginning of it, I mean, it's been going on for 2 years now. It's quite a long time. I guess in the beginning year, the first couple of waves, it was definitely hard not to talk about it, or at least not to talk about how it's affecting us and how, staying in our rooms or between these four walls, or when we get COVID, you have to stay even longer. All of these things, they just beat you down, and they definitely make for some material in poetry or in writing in general. And so, and in addition to that, we also had to stop the live events of the open mics that we have, and we had to bring them to Zoom, just like most people did with everything else, with education and everything else. So switching like these live events to Zoom is, in my eyes at least, and I believe in a lot of people's eyes, it doesn't really do it justice to, because we're sitting in a room, all of us, there's a stage, there's a mic. This gives this whole family type feel and support and all of that, and comfort. And so when you bring it to Zoom, it also makes you want to talk about it even more, because it's like, oh, this is like separating us. even though we were, you know, at least in one of the open mics that I run, um, or that I help run, it's you know, we bring people internationally, so technically there is some type of way we can connect, but it does make you want to talk about it, and it does make you feel more like, oh, like lazy and depressed and all of that. So yeah, we do talk about it. Um, Currently, we brought the live events back,
Good.
but yeah, it's definitely it's. I think for now it's gonna be a hot topic for a while. But either way, even then we weren't always talking about it. It's like we were trying to waterboard around it,
Mm.
and yeah.
So did you see, and this may be just a personal question, but you may experience this, you know, if you're helping run an event, then you have, you know, exposure to a lot of artists and probably continue exposure to several people. Did you notice, let's talk about a silver lining, and an increase or an evolution in people's writing? Like, you know, I know for me, if once you can get past the immediate shock of maybe being confined to quarters, right? Um, Once you can accept that for its reality, did you find that because you really had no other choice but to write, that there was an evolution and growth in your writing or in maybe some of the other people that were delivering?
Personally, yeah, definitely. I mean, at one point you realize you have time. You just have time, and and yeah, I did spend. I mean, it took me personally. Actually, it took me a while to sit and write, because I wanted so badly to just be out there again, and I wasn't realizing actually how much time I have on my hands to evolve and to grow as a writer. But then, yeah, like you do notice some very interesting development, because it's not just simple. It's not just lyrical development. You're growing, you're maturing, and you're learning and about this new way of living, and I think that gives you a type of maturity that no other event can give you, no other experience in life can give you. So you grow as a person, definitely, that 100%. And I've seen that with some of my other friends who are writers and singers and such. They've also grown extremely, and there's a hunger to want to shine again, especially after now that we've opened everything up again, sort of. Um, all of that's what's been going on behind the scenes. The growth is now, it's showing for sure. So people are just, they need this, and they've been wanting to show what's, you know, because we all want to connect. So
Mhm.
we all want to show our development all together. So yeah, there's definitely a huge, beautiful growth, and for me personally, yeah, same here for sure.
Definitely. And that's something that I think that many in my circle, and I think you and I have discussed this as well, is, you know, again, when you can get past the initial shock of this is what your reality is going to look like for the foreseeable future, or these events are actually occurring, um, you know, there's a lot you can take away positive from these events worldwide. You know, we talked about, you know, forcing you to spend more time with your family, being home more, you know, connecting with your children, connecting with your spouse, connecting with
Mm.
yourself, you know, finding new hobbies, being creative. And so I think that there was a lot of good that came out of this event, or this
Mhm.
ongoing era in human history, is the amount of introspection um, and existential evaluation that
Mm.
went on, and that I guess continues to go on, because I know that as you watch the news and you see that, okay, we may go back into lockdowns, we may, you know, yes, of course, you're a bit more prepared for that than the first round, and we've developed tools now with Revity to help remedy some of these issues. But I also think that because we're not out of the woods yet, People are really starting to think about what is more important and most important in life. So I think that, like you said, in terms of a metamorphosis in societal trends and conditions, I think that we've seen something rather magical.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, certainly, I agree. Um, and yeah, just like you said, there's this intense amount of introspection that happened, and I feel like we've all gone through our own personal journeys of I guess, self-reflecting and cleaning ourselves up, and trying to find new ways to use that time, and only to grow, because that's all you can do. You can't really go to work much or do much, so you're using it purely to grow, which a lot of people need, and well, you always need it, but in that time you really, really desperately need it to find a way to adapt and grow. So yeah, yeah, definitely, it's very important. Yeah.
And you talk about growth, and we talk about how we all should be growing. And of course, we're going to talk about the other side of that coin, about people who kind of reverted back to a more primal state. Um, I know in the US, we saw an extreme increase in violence, not only in our airports, on the planes, other public transportation, but just in cities, towns, places that violence was pretty much unheard of, are now erupting with unrest. So are you guys seeing that? Like, kind of, it was almost like animals being let out of a cage. Once we got a little bit of freedom and people kind of went wild. You guys as a whole, are you seeing the same thing, or is it because you have so much other real violence happening, that's not the first option for people once they got a little bit of freedom?
Well, yeah, I guess I would say it's mixed in there, in between all of these other problems. There's definitely a lot of aggression, and yeah, I mean, you, literally, you do lock people in their own homes for a certain amount of time, and then you put them out there, and then add on top all these other political and economical issues. Um, you're you're definitely not making the lions very happy, and
It's really not.
yeah, and so it's no, definitely we did see a lot of, and sometimes we do continue to see some aggression, and you know we're, because like I can give you a very real example, like in markets, we have a lack of some items, or some like milk and stuff like that, and then there's, okay, now the markets have opened, so we can go purchase them, but there's still a lack of them.
Mhm.
And so now people are like, but like, what's been going on, what have you been doing as a government in the past 2 years? And so now people are fighting over the limited amounts of this and that. It's found everywhere, and it's definitely mixed in between that. It's very sad to see. um, and our I mean, more things are opening, but everything is 15 times more expensive because of the rate of the pound here, of the Lebanese pound, and it's it's just insane. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of violence you can see, and you have to be careful, uh, where you're walking at what time, because there's some more robberies, for example, now, and so yeah.
And it's just unfortunate, that I know the experience I had, not only in the contiguous United States, but also since I've been in St. Thomas, has been this the hoarding, right? And so we're, obviously being an island, everything has to be shipped or flown in for the most part. And so we're seeing the same thing where you have a lack of supplies, or a lack of goods, and then the goods that you do have are inflated in price, both because of the lack and because people are trying to keep their bottom line intact. And so you see the aggression, and you see the irritation in the people. And it was really a shame to watch people on the news and whatnot, hoarding items, and keeping other people from being able to have that. Is that still something that you all are dealing with in terms of people who have the ability to purchase goods? Are they trying to buy them all up?
You do see that sometimes, but there aren't even enough goods and supplies to hoard. That's
Wow.
where, yeah,
Okay. I
exactly.
mean, we're laughing about it, but that's a terrible state of affairs.
Yeah,
Terrible, certainly.
it's very scary because even if you have the money, then it's like,
Right.
where is the,
So
so
where is everything? So I want to take a pause right there, and I want you guys to think about these statements and whenever you watch this podcast, because we often talk about, and I'll just say it for what it is, first world problems, right? Uh, you know, I don't have gas in my car, or I don't have my favorite coffee, kind of stuff, and even now that people are seeing what's even more important, we're still in the mentality because of the affluence this country holds, that it's still nowhere near as bad as places like Lebanon and other countries that are really struggling with a whole other list of issues. And then you stack this on top of this. I just want to let you all really take that part in. And I really want to emphasize how well most of us are really really living in comparison to other people. So I mean, think about what he just said, that even the people who have the ability to hoard cannot, because there's not enough goods to go around. So I just want everybody to really think about how blessed that you are. And that's the point of this particular podcast series that we're doing, is to let people see not only how people in the other world live, and that's not just about the negativity, but this is impacting the entire world. And I want you all to be having an opportunity to be exposed to real people who are dealing with real issues that are much much worse than some of the things that we're going through. And I don't want to take away from whatever your issue is, whatever your trial right now is, because for the person, that trial is substantial. But sometimes you have to take a step back and think about everything else that's going on in the world and other people in the world, and realize, what I'm going through isn't that bad, because it is about perception. And man, I can appreciate you so much for being here, because it's always enlightening and encouraging. And I know it's good and therapeutic to get these things out and be able to talk about them. And I always appreciate you willing to come on and speak very candidly about what's happening in your life and what's happening in your country. Is there anything that you want to add, anything new? I know you guys said that you guys are starting to come up with the opportunity to meet in person. And I do want to mention briefly on that note about the atmosphere. Even though this is fantastic, it certainly does desensitize you a little bit because you're not in a person's presence.
right. Mhm.
And you guys experience, I know you said that some people were really frustrated. I know there was still growth, but was there an explosion in your art community? Because now you guys can kind of charge the atmosphere again and be in each other's presence.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said before, you can see everyone's hungry to not only express themselves, but to express themselves in unity. And um, it's very wholesome. It's very, very beautiful. Where every time we meet, it's maybe like the seventh or eighth time we've done a live event in the past 2 months now. We meet, and it's always it's a full house, and it's people who you can see it in their eyes. They really need this. They really need it, and they miss it most of all, because we've made an impact on these people. They are now used to these events, and they're used to these weekly or bi-weekly type events to meet up and express themselves. And when you cut them all off and then you bring it back, uh, there's definitely we're all gathering together. We're all we have actual concerts happening with rappers and singers doing their thing and bringing people together. And so there's a huge boom in the scene right now. The scene is actually much bigger and much more vibrant than it was before. So actually, in a way, it all of this negativity, as you said before, it did a lot of good, and this is definitely one of the good it has done. It has brought us even closer together and stronger together, and we continue to create, and create together. So yeah.
Man, beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. Well, we're out of time for today, but I definitely appreciate your time. And I was again want to encourage everybody to heed these words, not as a warning, but just to be cognizant and mindful of what's going on in the rest of the world, and to be encouraged, because just like we've experienced, and just like Rayan said, it's, even though a lot of bad things have happened, it's given us the ability to grow and to evolve and to get better. And you guys who follow me know that I put a video up just last week talking about, who are you serving? Are we helping one another? Are we, being there for one another? And you can see here, as he has stated, we are supposed to be in fellowship. We are supposed to be together. We are supposed to be encouraging one another and loving one another and lifting one another up. And so you can see from a firsthand account, not just from me hearing it all the time from me, but from a gentleman from halfway around the world who talks about the same thing. These things are important. And no matter what your belief system is, no matter what it is that, you operate under, whatever those tenets look like, you can see and you can hear that it is important for us to be in unity, right? And to be a community of people, no matter where we come from, and no matter, again, what our belief system is, we can still operate together. We can still do great things. We can still positively impact the community and the world. Rayan, is there anything else you want to add before we take off?
I really appreciate you, man. Appreciate the platform, and everything you preach is beautiful, and I appreciate the listeners as well. So thank you.
All right, man. Well, thank you again. I know it's a time difference, and I apologize because I'm the one who keeps messing up the time difference. Apparently, I can't count, guys. I'm good with words, but not with math. But be on the lookout. We'll get this out momentarily, and be on the lookout for our next installment. It's sure to be informative as well as encouraging. Don't forget that the 40 Days and Nights Journey Through the Wilderness is available on Amazon. Get yourself a copy of that today. Also, as a reminder, 60 Days of Casual Word is still available as well. If you need a devotional for yourself or for someone that you care about and you think that this might be something for them, go ahead and pick yourself up a copy of that as we turn into the holiday season. Guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We do have a way to monetarily support the podcast as well. If you decide to do so, we deeply appreciate it. All the proceeds go to equipment and availability for us to get more and more guests on. With that being said, as always, let's change the way that we think so we can change the way that we live. Until next time, stay blessed.